The whole town believed Ethan Carter was nothing more than a quiet, illiterate farm boy. He wore worn-out boots, drove an old rusty pickup, and spent his days working in the fields. People pitied him. Some even laughed at him. But what no one knew was that Ethan Carter was secretly worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And the woman who once looked down on him was about to discover a truth that would leave her speechless. But before we reveal what happened, take a second to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you enjoy powerful life stories that reveal shocking truths, you're going to love this one. Now, let's begin. The small town of Willow Creek was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. News traveled faster than the wind, and people often judged others based on appearances. And that's exactly what happened to Ethan Carter. Every morning, Ethan would wake up before sunrise. He'd put on his faded denim jacket, grab a thermos of coffee, and head to the farm outside town. The land was large but simple, golden fields stretching under the open sky. Ethan worked hard. He repaired fences, fed animals, and harvested crops under the scorching sun. To most people in town, Ethan looked like someone who barely got by. Especially to Clara Bennett. Clara Bennett had just moved to Willow Creek. She was confident, stylish, and ambitious. After living in Chicago for years, she believed small towns were simple and predictable. When she first saw Ethan at the local grocery store, he was standing quietly in line holding a few basic items. Work gloves, bread, milk. His clothes were dusty from the fields. Clara glanced at him and immediately judged him. She whispered to her friend, "Poor guy, probably never even finished school." Her friend shrugged. "Yeah, he's just the farm boy who works outside town." Clara gave a sympathetic smile. To her, Ethan was just another struggling farmer. Someone whose life was small, simple, ordinary. But she was very, very wrong. What no one in Willow Creek knew was that Ethan Carter had graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Years earlier, he had been a brilliant technology student. At just 23 years old, Ethan had developed a revolutionary piece of agricultural software that helped farmers predict crop yields and reduce waste. The software became wildly successful. Within 2 years, major companies invested millions. Eventually, Ethan sold the company for $320 million. But instead of living in luxury, he quietly disappeared from the spotlight. He returned to Willow Creek, back to the land where he grew up. Because Ethan never cared about showing off wealth. He cared about peace, purpose, and helping others. And he preferred people not knowing who he really was. Despite his success, Ethan chose to live simply. The old truck? He kept it. The farm work? He loved it. The quiet life? It kept him grounded. But the town misunderstood his silence. Some people pitied him. Others thought he lacked education. Even Clara occasionally saw him working by the roadside and felt sorry for him. One afternoon, she even told her coworker, "It's sad, people like him never get a chance in life." Little did she know, Ethan had already built a fortune most people could only dream of. One day, Clara's car broke down on a dirt road outside town. Her phone had no signal. And the sun was beginning to set. Frustrated and worried, she stepped out of the car. That's when she heard the sound of an old pickup approaching. It was Ethan. He stopped beside her. "Car trouble?" he asked calmly. Clara hesitated for a moment. But she nodded. Ethan opened the hood and examined the engine carefully. Within minutes, he identified the problem. A loose battery connection. He fixed it quickly. Clara watched in surprise. "Wow, you know cars pretty well." Ethan smiled slightly. "Sometimes simple problems just need a careful look." Clara thanked him politely. But deep down, she still assumed he was just a hard-working farm boy. But what Clara didn't know was that this quiet man she had just met had built one of the most successful agricultural technologies in the country. And what would happen next would completely change how she saw him. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, make sure you subscribe and like the video. Stories like this remind us that people are often much more than what they appear to be. Now let's continue. A week later, Willow Creek hosted a community business event. Local entrepreneurs and investors gathered to discuss economic growth for the town. Clara attended because she worked for a regional marketing company. She hoped to meet potential clients. Inside the event hall, people were networking, shaking hands, exchanging business cards. Then something surprising happened. A luxury black car pulled up outside. Several executives stepped out. They were from Agrinova Technologies, one of the largest agricultural tech companies in the country. The crowd buzzed with curiosity. "Why are they here?" someone asked. Then the CEO walked onto the stage. He smiled and said, "Today we're here to thank someone very special, the brilliant mind who created the software that revolutionized our industry." The room grew silent. The CEO continued. "Without him, our company would never exist." Then he said the name. Ethan Carter. Clara froze. Her mind raced. Ethan Carter? The farm boy? The quiet man with dusty boots? The doors at the back of the hall opened. And Ethan walked inside. The same simple clothes. The same calm expression. But suddenly, everyone looked at him differently. The CEO walked up and shook his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet the genius who changed modern farming." The room erupted in applause. Clara felt her face turn pale. Everything she thought she knew about Ethan was completely wrong. The CEO continued explaining Ethan's achievements. His software. His innovations. His massive company sale. And his decision to quietly return to Willow Creek. People in the room were stunned. The quiet farm boy they had underestimated was actually a visionary entrepreneur. Clara sat there in disbelief. Memories replayed in her mind. Every assumption. Every judgment. Every moment she had looked down on him. She felt ashamed. After the event ended, Clara saw Ethan outside the hall. He was standing alone, watching the sunset over the fields. She slowly approached him. "I owe you an apology," she said softly. Ethan looked at her calmly. "For what?" Clara took a deep breath. "I judged you, without knowing who you really were." Ethan smiled gently. "That happens a lot." She asked him something she had been wondering. "Why live like this, when you could have everything?" Ethan looked toward the open land. "Because happiness doesn't come from what people see." He paused. "It comes from knowing who you are." Clara left that conversation with a completely different perspective. She realized how easily people judge others based on appearance. How often true brilliance hides behind simplicity. And how humility is sometimes the greatest sign of strength. As for Ethan, he continued living quietly. Working on his farm. Helping local farmers improve their crops. And occasionally investing in small businesses around town. Not for recognition, but because he believed success should help others. Sometimes, the person you overlook today may be the one with the greatest story tomorrow. And the biggest truths in life are often hidden beneath the simplest appearances. If this story moved you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments. Have you ever underestimated someone, or been underestimated yourself? Your story might inspire someone else. And remember, never judge someone by what you see on the surface. Because the quietest person in the room might just be the most extraordinary. We'll see you in the next story.